Before you click away, let me ask you something honest. How many times have you felt your energy drop just because of one person? One comment, one look, one sentence that stayed in your mind longer than it should have. You were motivated 5 minutes ago, focused, clear, and then someone spoke. And suddenly, you started questioning yourself. What if I told you that the real reason you feel drained is not because they are powerful, but because you were never taught how to be untouchable? Stay with me, because what you are about to hear might completely shift the way you deal with negative people for the rest of your life. Most advice tells you to ignore them, to avoid them, to cut them off. But what if you cannot? What if they are your coworkers, your family, your closest circle? What if negativity is something you face every single day? Here is the truth nobody explains clearly. The problem is not their negativity. The problem is your reaction to it. And once you understand how to control that reaction, how to strengthen your internal mindset, and how to turn their doubt into your fuel, you will reach a level of emotional discipline that most people never experience. By the end of this message, you will not just feel motivated, you will feel equipped. You will understand how to walk into a negative room and remain steady, how to hear criticism without shrinking, how to face doubt without losing direction. So do not skip ahead. Do not half listen, because the shift you are about to experience is not surface level motivation. It is mental armor. And once you build that armor, negativity will never control you again. Let's go deeper into something most people misunderstand. You cannot control negative people. You cannot control what they say about you, what they assume about you, or how they interpret your ambition. And the sooner you accept that, the sooner you stop wasting energy trying to manage other people's emotions. Most people think staying positive means convincing others to be positive too. That is not strength, that is dependency. If your peace depends on someone else behaving correctly, you are not peaceful. You are fragile. The real power begins when you understand a simple psychological truth. Between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space lies your freedom. Someone criticizes you, that is the stimulus. Your anger, your defensiveness, your over-explaining, that is the response. But in between those two moments is a gap. And in that gap is your authority. Most people react instantly. They hear doubt, and they fire back. They hear sarcasm, and they escalate. They hear discouragement, and they start defending their worth. Why? Because their ego feels attacked. But negativity is not always an attack. Sometimes it is projection. Sometimes it is someone revealing their limitations, not yours. When you react emotionally, you hand over control. You let someone else determine your state of mind. Think about that carefully. A single sentence from another human being can ruin your entire day. That is not their power. That is your permission. Emotional self-control is not suppression. It is selection. It is the deliberate choice to decide which thoughts deserve your attention and which do not. Not every opinion is a command. Not every criticism is a verdict. And not every loud voice is a wise one. Negative people often operate from fear, fear of failure, fear of change, fear of being left behind. When you decide to grow, your growth becomes a mirror. And not everyone likes what they see in that reflection. So they question you, they minimize your vision, they call it unrealistic. But what they are really saying is, I am uncomfortable with what your ambition reveals about my comfort. If you react with defensiveness, you signal insecurity. But when you respond with calm, something shifts. Calm is not weakness. Calm is controlled power. It communicates that you are not easily moved, and people quickly learn that negativity does not get a reaction from you. And here is something that may challenge you. Sometimes silence is the strongest statement you can make. We are conditioned to think we must respond to everything, we must explain ourselves, we must correct every misunderstanding. But maturity teaches you that not every battle deserves your participation. If someone is committed to misunderstanding you, no explanation will satisfy them. If someone is determined to see the worst in you, clarity will not change their lens. The disciplined mind asks a different question. Instead of asking, how do I stop them from being negative? It asks, Why am I allowing their negativity to disturb me? That question brings the focus back where it belongs, on you. Your reaction reveals your level of inner stability. When you are secure in your direction, criticism becomes data, not drama. When you are confident in your values, sarcasm becomes noise, not threat. When you know who you are, other people's opinions lose their authority. This does not mean you ignore all feedback. It means you filter it. There is a difference between constructive criticism and chronic negativity. One is designed to help you improve. The other is designed to keep you small. Wisdom is knowing which is which. And wisdom requires emotional distance. If someone says, that will never work, instead of reacting, ask yourself, is there any useful information here? If the answer is no, discard it. If the answer is yes, extract the lesson and move forward. Notice what you are doing in that moment. You are responding, not reacting. Reaction is automatic. Response is intentional. The mind that reacts is ruled by impulse. The mind that responds is ruled by principle. And principles create stability. When you stop reacting, something interesting happens. Negative people lose interest. They thrive on emotional exchange. They thrive on seeing you unsettled. When they realize you are not available for that dynamic, the energy shifts. You become difficult to provoke, and when you become difficult to provoke, you become powerful. Control over your reaction is not just about staying calm. It is about protecting your focus. Every emotional reaction costs you attention, and attention is your most valuable resource. If you spend it arguing, defending, and proving, you will have little left for building, creating, and progressing. Think about how many dreams are delayed because someone reacted instead of responding. A comment triggered doubt, a criticism triggered retreat, a negative opinion triggered hesitation, and momentum was lost. Not because the criticism was true, but because the reaction was strong. You must decide that your vision is too important to be interrupted by someone else's mindset. There will always be negativity. In your workplace, in your family, online, in conversations you did not even ask to be part of. The goal is not to eliminate it. The goal is to become stable within it. When you master your response, negativity becomes background noise instead of a steering wheel. And understand this clearly. Self-control is not about appearing composed in public while boiling inside. It is about genuinely reframing the situation internally. When you realize that someone's negativity reflects their internal state more than your external reality, it stops feeling personal. And what is not personal does not provoke. This is psychological maturity. This is emotional leadership. You become the kind of person who cannot be easily shaken, not because life is easy, not because people are always kind, but because you have trained yourself to pause, to evaluate, to choose. That pause is your power. So the next time someone doubts you, pause. The next time someone criticizes you unfairly, pause. The next time someone tries to pull you into their pessimism, pause. In that space, remind yourself that you are not required to participate in every emotional invitation. You are responsible for your reaction, and your reaction determines your trajectory. If you want to rise, you must learn to remain steady. If you want to lead, you must learn to stay composed. And if you want to stay positive in a negative environment, you must first master the one environment you fully control, your own mind. Because the moment you stop reacting impulsively is the moment you start living intentionally. And intentional living is where real power begins. Now let's take this further, because controlling your reaction is only the beginning. If you truly want to stay positive around negative people, you must build something stronger than reaction control. You must build internal strength. You must create an inner environment so stable that the outer environment cannot easily disturb it. Most people focus on managing people. Very few focus on managing their own mind. That is why they feel drained. That is why they feel overwhelmed. That is why a single negative comment can echo in their head for hours. It is not because the comment was powerful. It is because their internal foundation was unprepared. You cannot expect to think strong tea. Houts, if you feed your mind weak input, your brain is constantly absorbing information. Conversations, social media, news, music, the tone of your household, the attitude of your friends, all of it shapes your internal dialogue, and your internal dialogue shapes your emotional state. If your internal voice is already doubtful, then external negativity feels like confirmation. But if your internal voice is disciplined, then external negativity feels like background noise. So the question becomes simple. What are you feeding your mind every day? Most people wake up and immediately consume chaos. They check messages, they scroll through other people's opinions, they absorb complaints before they even center themselves. And then they wonder why they feel anxious and reactive. You cannot start your day in reaction mode and expect to live in control mode. Strong internal energy begins with intentional mornings. Before you allow the world to speak to you, you must speak to yourself. You must remind yourself who you are, what you are building, and why it matters. This is not motivational fantasy. This is psychological conditioning. Repetition builds belief. Belief builds behavior. If 10 negative voices speak to you throughout the day, but you never reinforce your own positive direction, the mind will default to the loudest repetition. The brain does not automatically choose truth. It chooses familiarity. So if negativity is repeated more often than purpose, negativity will feel more real. You must deliberately create repetition of strength. This is why discipline matters more than mood. You will not always feel motivated. You will not always feel confident. But you can still choose what you expose yourself to. You can choose books that expand your thinking. You can choose conversations that elevate you. You can choose silence over gossip. These small decisions compound into mental resilience. And let me be clear, positivity is not blind optimism. It is not pretending problems do not exist. It is the ability to interpret problems without collapsing under them. It is perspective training. When something goes wrong, the negative mind asks, "Why does this always happen to me?" The disciplined mind asks, "What is this teaching me?" That difference changes everything. If your internal environment is weak, challenges feel like threats. If your internal environment is strong, challenges feel like instruction. The same situation, different interpretation. And interpretation is a skill. You strengthen this skill through reflection. You question your automatic thoughts. When you feel discouraged, instead of accepting the feeling as truth, you investigate it. You ask, is this thought accurate or is it emotional? Often negativity grows not because of facts, but because of assumptions. Internal strength requires intellectual honesty. It requires you to confront your own limiting beliefs. Sometimes the negative voice around you simply echoes the negative voice within you. That is uncomfortable to admit, but it is necessary. If you secretly doubt yourself, external doubt will feel unbearable. But when you resolve your internal uncertainty, external criticism loses its impact. You must also understand the importance of identity. If you see yourself as someone who is easily influenced, you will be easily influenced. If you see yourself as someone grounded and disciplined, your behavior will align with that identity. Identity drives consistency. So decide who you are becoming. Are you becoming someone reactive and drained, or someone stable and intentional? Internal energy is built through consistency, not intensity. It is not one powerful speech that changes you. It is daily reinforcement. It is choosing growth even when negativity is loud. It is practicing gratitude even when others complain. It is maintaining standards even when others settle. Gratitude, in particular, is a powerful mental discipline. Negative environments train you to focus on what is missing. Gratitude trains you to focus on what is present. This does not mean ignoring ambition. It means recognizing progress. When you acknowledge progress, you build confidence, and confidence stabilizes your emotional state. Another important element is boundaries. Internal strength does not mean absorbing everything. It means knowing when to disengage. If a conversation consistently drains you, you limit your exposure. If certain topics always spiral into negativity, you redirect or remove yourself. This is not avoidance. It is strategic protection. Your mind is an asset. Protect it like one. Many people are physically protective of their possessions, but mentally careless with their attention. They guard their money, but give away their focus freely. Focus determines direction. Direction determines outcome. So if you want to stay positive, you must treat your attention as valuable. It also helps to remember that you become similar to what you repeatedly tolerate. If you constantly tolerate pessimism without countering it internally, you normalize it. Over time, you begin speaking the same language. You begin expecting the same limitations. This is why internal reinforcement must be stronger than external influence. And here is something subtle but powerful. When your internal energy is strong, you no longer feel the need to convert everyone around you. You stop trying to convince negative people to see the world your way. You simply remain grounded in your own perspective. That calm conviction is persuasive. Without being aggressive, strength does not shout. It remains steady. When your internal foundation is built, you walk into negative environments differently. You are less surprised by pessimism. You are less offended by criticism. You are less shaken by doubt. Not because those things disappeared, but because your center is solid. You have trained your mind to return to balance, and that is the ultimate goal. Not perfection, not constant happiness, but the ability to return to stability quickly, the ability to process negativity without internalizing it, the ability to hear doubt without adopting it. This takes effort. It takes awareness. It takes repetition, but it is possible, and once you build it, you will notice something remarkable. The same negative environment that once drained you will begin to feel smaller. The noise will still exist, but it will no longer dominate your thinking, because you have built something stronger inside. So do not underestimate the power of your daily inputs. Do not ignore the influence of your internal dialogue, and do not assume positivity is a personality trait. It is a practice. The environment around you may not change. Immediately, the people around you may not shift. But if you commit to strengthening your internal world, you will stop depending on external validation for emotional stability. And when your inner voice becomes disciplined, focused, and intentional, the outside world loses its authority over your mindset. Build your internal foundation so strong that negativity has nowhere to settle. Now, let us take this to the highest level of understanding. Once you learn to control your reactions, and once you begin building a strong internal environment, there is one final shift that changes everything. You stop seeing negative people as obstacles. You start seeing them as fuel. Most people spend years trying to escape negativity. They think, if I just change my environment, I will finally grow. And yes, environment matters. But if you're strength depends entirely on perfect conditions. Then your growth is fragile. Real strength is measured by what you do when conditions are imperfect. Negative people are not new. They have always existed. In every era, in every workplace, in every family system, there are those who doubt, who criticize, who minimize, who predict failure before effort is even applied. The difference between those who rise and those who remain stuck is interpretation. You can interpret negativity as discouragement, or you can interpret it as information. When someone says that will not work, you have two options. You can internalize it as a limitation, or you can analyze it as a perspective. Notice the difference. One shuts you down, the other sharpens you. Emotionally immature individuals react to negativity with anger. Emotionally disciplined individuals convert it into strategy. If someone criticizes your idea, instead of collapsing, ask yourself, is there a weakness here I can strengthen? If the answer is yes, improve it. If the answer is no, proceed anyway. In both cases, you win, because you are no longer emotionally injured by doubt. You are intellectually engaged by it. There is something powerful about this mindset. When you stop fighting negativity and start studying it, you gain clarity. Negative people often reveal market gaps, blind spots, inefficiencies, and weaknesses others ignore. Their skepticism forces refinement. Their criticism forces resilience. In that sense, negativity becomes resistance, and resistance builds strength. Think about physical training. Muscles do not grow without resistance. They grow because of it. The pressure creates adaptation. The same is true psychologically. When you face doubt and remain steady, your confidence strengthens. When you face criticism and continue working, your focus deepens. When you face pessimism and maintain perspective, your emotional stability expands. Without resistance, you remain untested. Without opposition, you remain unproven. This does not mean you seek negativity. It means you stop fearing it. Many people secretly depend on approval. They feel motivated when supported and defeated when criticized. But if your drive depends on applause, then silence will destroy you. And if your confidence depends on encouragement, then doubt will control you. You must reach a level where progress matters more than praise. Negative people can unintentionally give you a gift. They reveal who truly believes in growth and who is attached to comfort. They show you how average thinking sounds. They demonstrate the mindset you are choosing to outgrow. Instead of resenting them, observe them. Instead of arguing, distance yourself mentally. Instead of trying to convince them, let your results speak over time. Results are quiet but undeniable. There is also a psychological principle at work here. When someone criticizes your ambition, it often has little to do with you. It has everything to do with their relationship to risk. When you pursue something bold, it disrupts their sense of safety. It forces them to confront their own inaction. And that discomfort manifests as negativity. Understanding this removes personalization, and when you stop personalizing negativity, you stop being wounded by it. But let me challenge you further. Sometimes negativity reveals something important about your own consistency. If someone doubts you and you immediately feel unstable, it may be because you have not yet proven to yourself that you can execute. Doubt hits hardest where discipline is weakest. So instead of arguing with doubters, build undeniable evidence. Work quietly, improve relentlessly, close gaps, increase competence. When your skill level rises, externa, noise loses relevance. It is difficult to be shaken when you are prepared. And here is another shift that very few people talk about. Negative environments can train emotional endurance. When you learn to stay focused in the presence of pessimism, you become adaptable, you become composed under pressure, you develop the ability to perform without emotional comfort. That is rare. Most individuals perform well only in supportive conditions. But life does not always provide supportive conditions. Leadership requires the ability to remain clear-minded when others are anxious. Success requires the ability to continue when others withdraw. Negativity becomes a test, not of your talent, but of your steadiness. And steadiness compounds. There is also strategic value in observing negative patterns. If you consistently hear the same type of criticism from multiple sources, instead of dismissing it, evaluate it. Not emotionally, logically. Patterns often contain data. Data can refine direction. Again, this is not about absorbing pessimism. It is about extracting utility, loses its emotional charge. It becomes neutral input. It becomes something you assess, filter, and use when appropriate. You are no longer reacting to tone, you are analyzing content. That shift alone elevates you. You also begin to understand something profound. The presence of negativity is often evidence that you are moving. Nobody criticizes stagnation. Nobody doubts someone who never attempts anything meaningful. Doubt follows ambition. Criticism follows visibility. Resistance follows momentum. If you are encountering negativity, it may be because you are doing something significant enough to be noticed. That realization reframes everything. Instead of asking, why are they negative? You begin asking, how can I use this to sharpen myself? That quest, ion transforms frustration into focus. Over time, you will notice that negative voices grow quieter, not because they changed, but because you changed. Your attention shifts toward execution, your energy shifts toward growth, your conversations shift toward solutions, and the more progress you make, the less interest you have in arguing. Ultimately, this is about emotional evolution. You move from needing validation to valuing progress. You move from defending your identity to developing your capability. You move from reacting to refining. And when that happens, negativity becomes irrelevant. Not because it disappeared, but because you outgrew its influence. So the next time you encounter doubt, do not shrink. Let it sharpen you. The next time you hear criticism, do not retreat. Let it refine you. The next time someone underestimates you, do not argue. Let your discipline respond. Turn resistance into resilience. Turn negativity into fuel. Because when you stop fighting the noise and start building through it, you become unstoppable. And remember this clearly. If their negativity can strengthen your focus instead of weakening your confidence, then they have unknowingly contributed to your rise.